Hey, what's going on, guys? Feel your bod community. What's going on? Happy Saturday? Is it Saturday? Friday? Sunday? Feels like it's all the same these days. Hope you're having a great day. Just wanted to jump on here real quick and talk about being stuck or plateaus. Like, they can kind of mean the same thing, but I feel like they come from different places. But I really want to kind of hop on here and talk about this stuff because I've been having what it seems like a recurring conversation lately about, being stuck and hitting plateaus and, by all accounts doing the right things but not seeing results, right? So whether it's weight loss, muscle gain, all that kind of stuff. Um, Really just wanted to kind of talk about some things, and I put together a training here that I'm actually going to go through here with you today. That's basically boiled down to like the 10 reasons why you're not losing weight while doing workouts. And this can kind of this doesn't have to be specifically pertaining to actual weight loss. Could also be kind of related to muscle gain as well. So um, this training itself is kind of for two people. Okay, the first person that it's for is that person that is seemingly doing all the right things, right? Feel like your nutrition's pretty good, you're working really hard in the gym, but just nothing's happening, right? You feel like you should be looking better, should be feeling better, but nothing's really happening. So that's the first person that this training is for. Second person that this training is for is the person that has seen results in the past. Maybe you've either just started CrossFit or maybe you've amped up your training a little bit and you saw some results in the way of weight loss or muscle gain. Feeling pretty good, but then it just kind of stopped working. And that maybe you didn't slide backwards, but you hope to go further than you did or that you have, and you wanted to take this a little bit further, but you're just kind of struggling making it across that plateau. So um I don't want to ramble on too much about this, but I really wanted to kind of bring this to you because if you've been in the group at all for like the last couple of months, maybe you've been looking at some of the trainings I put out. We're kind of like a holistic type mentality, right? We, although we talk a lot about nutrition. Actually, if you saw my post not too long ago, we actually don't talk that much about nutrition. It's more system based, but um, it's not just nutrition that we talk about. And a lot of people, when we're doing CrossFit and things like that, doing any kind of barbell sport, we know nutrition to be like one of the biggest things when it comes to weight loss and muscle gain, right? Of course, it's kind of just the physics of it all and the biology that you just have to be in a caloric surplus. If you want to gain weight, you have to be in a caloric deficit. If you have to lose weight, it kind of just boils down to science, right? But I think there's a lot more avenues. There's many, many more avenues in life that we can actually leverage to hit our goals. And I think they're almost, it's not just like, you pick a lane and stick with it. And, whether you want to dial in your sleep or dial in your nutrition, it's not just one or the other. I think there's a whole lot of things being left on the table that you can do simultaneously with your nutrition actually help you hit your goals. And with the conversations I do have, I do find that people tend to put all their eggs in that nutrition basket, and they just avoid, maybe not avoid is the right word, but they tend to take for granted all of the other things that actually could have huge, huge impact on some of the results that they're not seeing. Um, so yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into this training. So I got basically 10 reasons why you're not losing weight while doing workouts, doing WODs specifically. Awesome. So let's look at it. The first one is that your sleep is shit. Okay. Sleep is one of those things, and again, if you've been around the group a while, you know that I harp on sleep a lot. We spend just like nutrition. You can't get by on poor nutrition because we eat every day, right? We spend so much of the day eating. Likewise with sleep, we spend one third of our life sleeping, right? Do you really think that you know through all of evolution, the millions of years of evolution that we've had with human beings, that to get to this point where we spend one third of our lives basically in a coma, do you think it's not important? We get into this kind of place where we feel like we can just push off sleep into the future, like, I'll sleep when I'll die kind of thing. I got to bed late tonight, but I'm still gonna get up at 4 a.m. to go to the 5 a.m. class, that kind of thing. And you're just we often work on like 4 or 5 hours of sleep. Um, and I think that's probably one of the biggest factors that I see with people that aren't seeing the results that they want is that they're just not sleeping enough. And not just enough, but the quality is also pretty garbage. So I think that's one of those good those one of those things that we should be really aiming for, the 7 to 9 hours of good quality interrupted sleep is one of the best things. A lot of people will say like, oh well, I was in bed for 8 hours. Isn't that enough? It's like no. Just because you're in bed for 8 hours, you can only be asleep for five or six of those hours. So we really have to think about efficiency as long as with a quantity as well. Um, so I actually have like a hyper nutrition guide as well, or not a hyper sleep checklist. So if you want to get a copy of that, if you're listening and want to get a copy of my sleep checklist, just DM me and I'll get that over to you. But yeah, sleep is by far, I think, the biggest thing that's being left on the table right now and why people tend to get stuck and not see results. Number two is that your nutrition is not as good as you think. Okay. So there's a whole wide range of people when it comes to nutrition, right? Maybe you're that person that has never really tracked their macros or any kind of documentation of their food. So you might have no idea what's going on. And a lot of people will say, like, oh, well, I eat pretty good. I don't eat out that much. And whenever I hear that, it's like, okay, track for 3 days and then tell me where you're at. Most people do get surprised, which is not, it's not the end of the world, but as humans, we're terrible estimators. We always think like, oh, it's not that bad. I probably only have 2,000 calories a day. Not that big of a deal. It's probably my hormones, right? But then when we actually track, it's like, oh, I'm actually eating 3,200 calories. We're actually way off. I think studies have shown that even nutritionists, when asked to estimate how many calories they've eaten in a day, without specifically tracking, they were off it by as much as 30%. And those are nutritionists, people that do this for a living. Um, so, point being, humans are bad estimators. If you haven't been tracking, just track for 3 days to see where you're at. There might be some major gains to be made just by doing that. Just to see where you're at, make a change. Now, if you have been tracking, if that's something that you've been doing for a while, you might want to just do an extra audit on yourself to see if there's anything that's being left on the table. Maybe it's like the coffee creamer that you're not tracking. Maybe it's the olive oil in your cooking that's not being tracked. All those kinds of things, those two specifically, because those are typically high in calories. So you have 3 or 4 coffees a day with a tablespoon of full fat creamer. That's going to be a couple hundred calories. Same with if you're using olive oil for cooking for breakfast, for dinner, that's probably gonna be a couple hundred calories as well. So, 3 to 4 calories a day somewhere is gonna absolutely destroy your deficit for the week. So just something of a reminder there. We have to make sure that if you are tracking, you're not seeing results, to continue being sure that you're tracking absolutely everything. All right. And then even if you are completely sure that you've tracked everything and you still should be losing weight or putting on muscle, I would say do an even more in-depth audit on yourself to make sure that you're eating all the whole foods you can. Try to cut out as much processed food as possible, because at the end of the day, everything that we do with counting macros, counting calories, counting protein, is just an estimate. Okay? Even if we scanned labels and got it down to the gram, doesn't matter, because those labels can be off by as much as 20%. Okay. So you could be getting 20% more calories than you expected just by the luck of the item that you bought and the tolerances that they have and they have to operate within. So it's not an exact science, which I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it. You definitely should do it, but it just means that we need to account for absolutely everything that we can, because there's going to be certain things that we cannot control. Point three is stress could be holding you back. So this one's a little bit different because I think the role that stress plays on the body and it's hard to tell, especially if we're not getting hormone tests or anything, but typically people know when they're stressed out. I think that stress, that inherent stress in itself, could be playing with your hormones, releasing cortisol into the bloodstream, that could be having an impact on you. But I almost think the indirect results from stress can be one of the biggest things that are having an impact on you. Because when you're more stressed, think about it, you're going to be probably consuming more calories just by, having cravings, things like that. Maybe you can't sleep. So then your sleep is trash. And if you can't sleep, then you're spending more hours awake in a day, which means there's more opportunity to eat. And then there's stress eating. And then there's, binge eating from that or not eating. And it's just like, it puts so much chaos into your life that ultimately it starts to affect everything, right? So that being said, and you could even extend it to being stressed and then missing workouts. So just all the impacts that stress has on your life from A to Z, basically, can be something that's holding you back. So I always find it funny because it's literally happened with my clients that maybe they're stuck on a little plateau, and the only thing that we introduce is something like journaling, right? Dealing with that stress, because once they've dealt with that stress, they have more capacity in their day to go for a walk, to make appropriate food decisions, to meal prep, to actually count their calories or count out their food the next day, to prep a meal for tomorrow, to pack a lunch, all these different things. Go to sleep earlier. You free up that capacity from stress in your day, and you're not sitting on the couch watching Netflix. You actually expand the things that you can do that day. So, like to me, stress is like up there with sleep in terms of a no brainer. There's something we should be taking care of. Number four is CrossFit isn't no. I'm sorry. I'm going to be like speaking blasphemy here, but CrossFit isn't enough movement for a day. Okay, it can be. It can be though. That's the thing. It really, really depends on your programming. So you could have a box that is lucky in terms of, the programming is typically like a, 20 to 30-minute WOD where there's lots of movement, it's consistent. Maybe you're not sprinting, you're more at the oxidative pace where you're, a long burning type workout. But then we also have those workouts where it's like Grace, right? Or Fran, that you're looking for that 3 to 8 minute type cardio workout, which is not a bad thing. It's a great metabolic conditioning workout because we have to hit that short range metabolic conditioning sometimes. However, if you do that several times a week, those short bursts, um, not only are they catabolic, they're not really anabolic, so they don't help you build muscle, um, but they're also not really good for burning calories. Yeah, you're going to be burning a high rate of calories for those couple of minutes, but overall, how many calories do you burn doing Fran, doing Grace? 30, 40 maybe? I'm not sure. But we think that just because we did a super intense hard workout that we've burnt a lot of calories, and that's just not true. Not to say that it's not worth it, because ultimately it is, but a lot of people will say, I do CrossFit 6 times a week, therefore I should look like Noah Olson. I should look like Katrin David's daughter, where that's really just not the case. Um, so, and it's funny too, because, a lot of the times we do that 30-40 minute workout still, but then we actually spend the rest of the day sitting in an office chair for 10 to 12 hours and then go home and make supper and then sit on the couch for the remainder of the hour, for the remainder of the night. And then we lie down for 8 hours to sleep, right? So we spend a vast majority of that day not moving at all. We spend 20 to 30 minutes moving, and we think that we should have the X body, which is not the case. So, um, my suggestion would be there, if since CrossFit is not really enough movement to be burning a lot of calories, I would try doing longer EMOMs in your own programming if you can. So 30 to 40-minute workouts, maybe something like 5K rows or bikes. Anywhere where you're doing like a casual pace for 50 to 70% of intensity, and not aiming for that 99% intensity where you're crushed on the floor on your back after and cannot breathe. Um, there's a place for those workouts. They hold a place dear in my heart, but it's not something that should be relied on 4 to 5 times a week. Number five, energy balance isn't enough either. So, we know that by all accounts, that if you want to build muscle, you need to be in a caloric surplus by roughly 10%. If you want to be losing weight, you need to be in a technical calorie deficit by 10%, under 10%. Um, But the problem is that sometimes we take that so far that we actually end up being on a starvation level. So, for example, if you burn 1,500 calories a day and you want to lose weight, then you have to be at 1,300 calories. That's not really that helpful. Now, of course, it depends on your size and stature. Maybe you're like a 4'9" woman that weighs 100 pounds. Of course, then the calorie count might be a little bit more accurate. Um, but at the end of the day, what we really want to achieve is, even if we had that 1-to-1 ratio, right? Let's say like we're burning 1,500 calories a day, we're eating 1,500 calories a day, we're not losing or gaining weight, we're just remaining the same. All fair. It would actually be more beneficial if we ramped up our energy to where we're burning 3,000 calories a day, but then also eating to match that, upping our energy intake to also 3,000 calories. So having that 1-to-1 at 3,000 calories versus the 1-to-1 at 1,500 calories is actually better for you because you have a higher energy output, which is basically going to cause your metabolism to be boosted. This is kind of how reverse dieting works a little bit. So basically, we want to ramp up that metabolism, then we do our calorie deficit to improve. So you might be on the lower end of that. Again, there's not a whole lot of change that happens with the metabolism. If I recall correctly, some of the research says that it only changes between 400 and 600 kilocalories on each side. So it's not like you're going to go from 1,500 calories a day to 3,000 calories a day in terms of your energy expenditure, your like your base metabolic rate. That's not going to happen. You'd have to be actively burning 1,500 calories a day by doing something very active. Um, Not to suggest that either, but basically what we want to do is eat more, but also do more. This is basically the basis of eat well, move more, right? Which is basically the thing that we want to do. So don't think about just doing the CrossFit workout, then lying down, sitting down all day, and then lying down all day. Kind of like point number 4 is that we really want to ramp up our energy by doing more, but then also eating more. It's not just about always being in a caloric deficit because it'll get to that point where you can't go lower or you're kind of getting in that starvation mode. Okay. So move more and eat more. Number 6 is you might be doing too much. So this is a little bit related to the recovery aspect or the stress aspect. Um, Except it's not really, when I talk about you personally, watching this training, you are stressed. If you are stressed, you typically know it. You could express that by being like, oh, work has kicked my ass. I've been arguing with my partner lately. Kids are being a bitch. I'm stressed. I get that. But it's totally possible that you could be physically stressed or even maybe like environmentally stressed without actually knowing it. Does that make sense? Um, the way that we can kind of tell that, actually, sometimes you can't even tell that, but you need to be able to recover from these things. Okay, so stress can come in all different forms. There's, I don't know, existential stress or environmental stress, physical stress. All those things that happen to us will impact our recovery levels. This is actually what we call allostatic load. I didn't put this in the training, but just to kind of give you another tip, this is called allostatic load. Basically, the combination of all the stress that happens, we can almost kind of, if you graded every area out of 10, you can kind of give yourself a score, right? So maybe mine is 50, yours is 70, another person's is 30. We all kind of have different scores based on our environment, our friends, our physical capabilities, all kinds of things like that. So where it gets to be being too much is that if you have all of these things happening, that you might need to be doing more recovery than someone else. So for example, I could have basically a twin and we could be going to the same CrossFit box doing the exact same physical workouts, but I work at a completely very, very, very stressful job and my twin doesn't. But other than that, we're all equal. I'm going to have a higher allostatic load, which means that I need to do more or do less to get back to homeostasis or back to my base level, right? So really what you want to do is do more recovery, stop doing things that are actually giving you more stress, slow it down, and that will actually help you return to that baseline and you're not constantly digging yourself a hole. Because what happens is when you're stressed, you basically dig yourself, a couple of foot hole, and then your recovery will bring you back to zero. That's the stress recovery um, graph basically. It's a cycle. Okay, you get stressed, then you recover. Get stressed, you recover. And actually, that's kind of how you also get stronger because you eventually ratchet it up, right? However, if you're doing too much, you go down. Then you only recover a little bit, then you go down. Then you recover down a little bit, then you go down. Think about like the person that's kind of stepping downstairs and he goes slowly down. That's basically what happens when you do too much. So because I have more stress on my body from other factors, I need to be doing less physical activity because that's going to impact my overall stress. Again, you could say that okay, maybe I don't need to do less physical activity. I need to do less. I need to have less stress socially. I need to have less stress environmentally. Yes, definitely all those factors. But it just means that sometimes doing more is not always the answer. Sometimes we actually need to be doing less. So instead of doing 6 WODs a week, how about let's dial it back to 5 and let's just be more meaningful with those workouts, right? Instead of 6 workouts being like, oh, I'm so sore and stiff, but I'm going to show up again today. No, take a fucking day off. Then on the next day, you can come back actually feeling fresh and get a good workout in instead of just going through the motions every single day. I feel like I was a little bit passionate about that one. Okay. 7. You let too loose on weekends. So this one is something that's super common. Like even with my clients, I don't ask anyone to be restrictive about their diet. I don't say like, "Hey, you can't eat this." I've never said that to anybody. Maybe you can't eat that much of that. That is probably something I've said, but there's nothing off limits. You can have beers, you can stay out late, you can eat whatever you want. But ultimately, when it comes down to what you want to achieve, you can't go too crazy. Okay. Um, when people get into that full send mode, right? Where it's just like, hey, I'm gonna go out for a couple of drinks. Like, okay, nothing wrong with going out, having a couple of drinks, having dinner, having a good time, coming home. Totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that's what's super healthy. But what happens is things get off the rails. We have a couple of drinks, go to dinner, we have a couple of more drinks, we have a couple of more drinks, we have a couple of more drinks, we sing karaoke, we have a couple more drinks, we go home, but we hit McDonald's on the way home in the drive through. So we're going home at 3 a.m. So we've destroyed our sleep, we've destroyed our recovery, and not to mention we've probably eaten 3,500 calories just in that 4 or 5 hour span. That happens. You do that once a week, hell, you do that once every 2 weeks, you're absolutely going to destroy every bit of progress that you hope to achieve. Reasonable weight loss is basically a pound a week. So that's reasonable. Okay. That's basically what someone should expect when they're actively trying to lose weight, which is about 3,500 calories of energy across those 7 days. All right. So 500 calories a day, but roughly. You have that one night out where you're full sending it. There's no one, I don't know anyone that wouldn't be able to put back 3,500 calories between booze and food within like a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hour span. But if you're going out for dinner, it's probably like what, 6, 7 p.m. You're out till 3, that's 8 hours, right? 8 hours of drinking and eating, which I'm not saying that you can't do, right? You can absolutely do that. But you can't do that, then also expect to be jacked, lean, and continue to be doing so because that is not how that works. Um, but if you can do it, you know what? Kudos to you. But I'm just saying, if you're one of those people that are struggling with losing weight, you might want to have a look at that. Number 8 is poor time management. Okay, so I get this a lot. Hey, I'm too busy. I don't have time to do X and Y. I don't have time to go for a walk. I don't have time to do all these things. Um, and I 100% get it. I'm busy as well. Everyone's busy. That's what life is. You know, we all have the same 24 hours in the day, but how we choose to fill it is gonna be different. But there's a lot of people out there that are fucking busy. You're a single mom. You got 4 or 5 kids that you gotta deal with. Uh, they got you on your last nerve. You're putting them to bed up until 8 p.m. and you've been up since 4 a.m. because you went to the 5 a.m. WOD. You worked all day. Now you have to like pack their lunches and do all that stuff, and basically as soon as you're finished that, you fall asleep. Right? I totally get that. That happens. However, there's not much we can do about that. But one thing I will challenge that to anyone that tells me that they don't have time for something, I just say, okay, show me on your phone what your weekly summary screen time is. And typically when I do ask that, it's like, oh, okay, it's quite high actually. I do spend a lot of time on TikTok. I spend a lot of time on Facebook. I spend a lot of time on Instagram. Like, okay, well maybe we can, we can do something. We can squeeze in a 30-minute walk. We can squeeze in 5, 6K steps. We can squeeze in a little bit of mobility, a little bit of stress reduction. Maybe we can stop watching TikTok an hour before bed and go to bed earlier, right? There's all those things that we can do. But I get it, if you're busy and you have no screen time, it's 100% a legit excuse. But I want to make sure it's not an excuse. Actual reason. Excuse me. Number 9 is a narrow vision. So, we've heard before, abs are made in the kitchen, can't outwork a bad diet. All those things are absolutely true. But, like I mentioned earlier on in the training, is that this group is kind of a holistic group. We like to look at other aspects within the realm of your life that might actually be able to impact what you're doing outside of nutrition, right? So I don't hate on any nutrition coaches by any means, but there's a lot of people out there that's just like, hey, I'm your nutrition coach. Here's your macros. That's the block. Okay, that's not always helpful because there's all things that can go wrong with that, right? Maybe I don't have time. Maybe I'm struggling with prioritizing that. All kinds of different things. And maybe nutrition we're already doing pretty good at, right? So maybe we don't really need to improve nutrition that much. But there's other things we can do when it comes to hitting our goals that has nothing to do with nutrition or indirectly related to nutrition. So for example, if you can really, this is an actual chain that I see all the time with my clients. Okay, so they want to lose weight. So they want to lose 10 to 15 pounds. You can almost reverse engineer it to their diet shit, their sleep shit, and their stress to hell. One of the first changes I make is stress. Help them deal with their stress. Because you help them deal with their stress, their sleep's going to improve. If they're less stressed and more rested, guess what? They're probably not going to be dealing with a shit ton of cravings. They're probably not going to be stress eating. They're probably going to have more time in the day to actually plan and think about things logically and meal prep and things like that, and actually be more organized because they're not going on 4 hours of sleep and stressed to fuck, right? So just by improving stress, I've then helped them with their sleep and I've helped them with their nutrition. I've told them to change nothing with their nutrition just by helping stress and opening our horizons of like, hey, there's 10 different things that we can focus on, not just nutrition, that can actually impact nutrition. That's one of the coolest things that I found out. And I think if we're really just focusing on nutrition, we kind of have the blinders on about whatever else could be impacting our nutrition or just impacting our weight gain. So, something to think about. And the last one, number 10, you expect not to succeed. So this is kind of the mindset side of it. I talk a lot about mindset. If you've been in the group long enough, you've probably seen a couple of my posts about mindset. One of my favorite quotes ever, I've said it before and I'll say it again. It doesn't matter whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So you can absolutely set yourself up for failure just by expecting to fail. And it's as simple as that. If you expect not to succeed, you're not fucking going to, right? You could be on the best program in the world. And if you come in with a mentality like, this is just another thing that's not going to work for me. Yeah, it's not going to, right? Because not only are you going to find ways to make it fail because that's what you're thinking about all the time, you'll just actively trick your body into be like, this is just something that doesn't work. And it's not going to, right? You can actually basically just thank yourselves for your own failure if you're actually expecting not to succeed. So learn to train your mindset into thinking about positive things that when you make a change, it's actually going to have a good impact on you. Again, I put this a little bit lower on the list because it's not something that's going to make weight loss for you, but I have a strong feeling here that it could be something that breaks your weight loss. Might not be the key to success, might not be that key to the castle for you. That you could try all of these and maybe that's the one that would have the least impact. But I tell you, if you have a negative mindset, They'll absolutely crush you. So just some food for thought there. Cool guys. Well, that's actually it for the training. So if you stuck around till this point, thanks for watching this training. Hopefully it was super helpful for you guys. If you want to grab a copy of these 10 points that we just talked about, so basically if you want a hard copy of this training, just drop a comment below. Say hashtag WOD, WOD, down in the comment section. I'll drop a link over to you with this training. And I'd love to hear your opinions on this. So if there's anything that you think was spot on the money that we talked about, likewise, if there's something that you totally disagree with, I would absolutely love to hear your feedback on this. So drop a comment down below with your opinion, and let's have a conversation. Other than that, guys, hopefully you have a great weekend, and yeah, enjoy it. Thanks for stopping by. Cheers.